What's up? Magnus here, and in this video I want to talk about two things. The new 24-70 G Master lens from Sony and 24-70 lenses in general, and of course why I won't switch to Sony even though they've got that nice new lens, and I love 24-70 lenses. Now, if you're new to my channel, I talk about cameras and gear like that, so consider subscribing. I put out shorts that are meant to be funny and video related, so hit that subscribe button if you'd like to see that. So let's go over one thing that happened recently in YouTube. Now, a lot of creators were doing videos specifically on the 24-70mm G Master lens. It's like their second version, which is the lightest lens and the smallest lens from the 24-70 that they're touting. It's lighter and smaller than any full frame 24-70 mirrorless lens, f2.8, which is kind of cool. Now, I saw a video from Tony Northrup where he compared it to other lenses, and it's got a lot of advantages, especially when it comes to sharpness. I love the 24-70mm focal range. At least from what I've seen, obviously I haven't tested out the lens in particular myself, like live test. I thought that that's a great lens for a great camera body system. Sony's doing a good job. But then there's a different opinion, one that was released by Matti Haapoja, who's a great YouTuber. You should subscribe to his channel if you like to see travel videos, but also really gear related videos, and he has a nice familiar way of talking about it and then showing you what he's up to from a day-to-day basis. His opinion on the 24-70mm focal length is that it's not for him, and some of his complaints had to do with the fact that it's not wide for like a vlog like this. So if you want it to be extra wide, it's not quite a 16mm focal length.
It's kind of an average lens, and what I mean by that is it's wide, but not super wide. 24 is it's like kind of wide.
But then usually when you want to zoom in, you want to zoom in more than 70mm, and he would want to too, to get a nice bokeh effect and to also really get the details of some objects or whatnot. And portrait lenses, for example, great portrait lenses like 85mm, and 70mm doesn't quite get in close enough, from his opinion. He did state that it's not just that, but it's also f2.8 isn't a fast enough aperture that he would prefer, such as something like a 50mm f1.2 or a 35mm f1.4 or 1.2, just kind of those extra amounts of light. I'm using a 50mm f1.4, which he said he doesn't like 50mm. He likes either more zoomed in or a little bit wider, like a 35 or a 24. So all of these different opinions I could understand. So the only reason why I'm commenting on it for you guys and getting straight to the point is basically if you've seen his video and you believe, oh, you know what, it's right, 24-70mm doesn't make much sense, especially if you're working with filming, it couldn't be farther from the truth from my perspective. I do see how if you're mostly a vlogger and you want to show off a wide angle so you can see yourself and see as much as possible, a 16mm would be preferred under such conditions. However, many filmmakers do not need to do selfies and film themselves holding the camera all the time. Sometimes you can use a little bit more zoomed in and be just fine. I will also say, like, for example, this footage right here, I was walking and talking, and I was talking about this subject, but the audio was horrible. You can see me, you can see a little bit of the background as well, and it's still good. It's not as wide, but when it comes to the R5, and because of like the wobble, sometimes being too wide is not good on this camera. Also, I can turn the camera around and zoom in a lot farther than you would on a 16-35mm. So I can still hold it in front of me, vlog, but yet zoom in significantly enough to get at least more details or be a little bit more dynamic with that footage. And then he mentioned something about like when packing a camera bag, having the 24-70 is like another lens, and he definitely would want the 35, definitely want the 85, and it's just he sees no use for it. What are you filming? In many cases when I do video work, and I've done a lot of video work, the 24-70mm has been an easy lens to carry for a quick shoot. I'm actually doing a shoot on a baseball field because the person that I have worked with on many videos is actually going to sing the national anthem on the field, and I will be on the field with her filming and this lens will be with me. To that argument where he says, well, the lens isn't fast enough. Understood, it's f2.8. You don't have f1.4, 1.2 aperture levels where you can't expand it that much, but expanding that much on a vlog or expanding that much all the time doesn't always mean that you're going to get a better looking shot. Now, I've got my 50mm on right now at f1.4. Now, what that does, believe it or not, is make the camera struggle because my entire face might not be in focus. Now, there's a little bit of distance, so maybe there's a little bit wider of a depth of field, but an f2.8 is almost that perfect middle point where you can get your subject in focus completely and the camera won't struggle and the background could be blurry. Whereas what I've got right now, and the only reason I got it at f1.4 is because I don't want to turn up ISO too high and I'm indoors. So having that extra light does help. But like if I go this close, for example, the back of my ear is out of focus. My eyes are in focus. And then it's just, if you want that shot, yeah, you can't get that with a 24-70, but then also the camera has to struggle to really move that focal point. It's almost like it'll ruin a lot of your shots, and a lot of your shots will go in and out of focus more than you would like. Even with the best focus systems, even with Sonys, even with Canons, you will have that struggle because you're doing a little bit too much when it comes to that narrow depth of field. So f2.8 is good. Even on this lenses, whenever I can, I will put it in f2.8 rather than f1.4 to increase that depth of field. It's not all about the blurry background all the times. Yeah, and then finally, why won't I ever go to Sony, especially after this like new lens with my favorite focal length? What's wrong with Sony? Why am I still against it? And I think I've mentioned this before, but as exciting as a 24-70 is on the Sony system, unfortunately, I'm still holding out because I do like Sony's improvements that they've done, higher bit rates in their recording modes, various recording modes that you can get, very high resolution frame rate, especially the A1, 8K 30 frames per second, 4K 120 frames per second. It's just really nice. However, the problem that I have with Sony is internal RAW. That's the only thing that they're missing. And then I'm going to look at Sony's direction. That and the fact that their cameras are expensive. With my R5, it was about $4,000 and it can record RAW internally. But the Sony A1 can't record RAW internally, it can do 8K, and that camera is over $6,000. It's like for 8K, I can get it much cheaper on the R5, and I get it whenever I want it. So that's kind of where I slip with Sony. It's like its price tag. And even though it's a great system, you could edit the files fast and everything, it's really the money and what you get out of it, the fact that you can't get internal RAW. Yes, you can have Atomos and output RAW externally, but ProRes RAW on DaVinci Resolve doesn't work at all. And on Adobe Premiere, you don't get to control white balance levels, for example, and that's just kind of defeats the purpose, at least for me. So those are my comments. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I've done a lot of talking. 24-70 G Master, awesome, but I have no problem sticking to 24-70 on any camera system because I know those focal lengths and they are awesome, specifically Canons. And as always, you can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. See you guys later.